Good day, traders. It is Saturday, the 12th of November. I'm recording this on the weekend so that it's done. This is for the week commencing the 14th, Monday the 14th of November. So having a look at the economic calendar. I would be interested to see what happens with anything housing related. I want to see if we still have there's fears of a housing market crash around the world. Different countries have their various reasons. I'd be interested to see what happens in the UK and with the US with home sales if they drop. If everything else is fine and home sales drop, then I think that's a winner for people who want to buy homes. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I'm curious. I would keep an eye on that. I also think that I'm curious to see what happens with the inflation rate with Japan, because as you know, the yen has been kind of out of whack lately. And I'd keep an eye on the US PPI coming out this week. So really anything to do with unemployment. Overall, actually things are not looking that bad. We've got a bit of Russia kind of trying to extricate itself from Ukraine. We've got US politics has calmed down, and we've got, we might be entering a bit of a sane period between now and January. I hope. We might not be out of it yet, but I'm hoping at least just for a month or two, we're going to have a bit of calmness and maybe a little bit more normal market behavior. And there are some good opportunities. So let me go to the charts and let me take you through this. I want to move at a pace today because I don't want this to be a 40-minute video. I'd like it to be as quick as possible. Okay, so looking at the dollar index, we have had a very much overdue correction. I mean, it was absolutely overextended. We're finally getting a pullback that we need. We're coming down. My expectation was 105. We're coming back down towards that. That's a minimum requirement. I think there is a fair chance we'll come back to 100. There's a fair chance. However, this week, we need to talk about this trading plan this week. My expectation is that this is a shift in trend as opposed to a temporary correction. I think it's a shift in trend. It may not be. It may turn out 2-3 months from now, looking back, this might just be a big correction. And then, by January or February or by the end of the year, we're back up with a stronger dollar and the conditions haven't changed. It's got a bit crazy. I think that's less likely. It's not impossible. I think it's much less likely. So what's happening now is this correction. So I'm going to go with this now. I'm going to go with the fact that the trading plan of the last few weeks is still in play, getting that weaker dollar, which means there's lots of opportunities across the market. We should have had them a while ago. We're getting them now. Here's the thing though. During this week, at some point, I'm expecting the market to retrace. So I'm expecting that dollar to strengthen temporarily, come back in to test these levels of support as resistance, potentially here at around 108, coming up as almost at 110, and then continue down. The tricky part is that going to happen Monday? Is that correction going to kick off on Monday and then kind of level out, and then maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we just have a good trend continuation to the downside? Or is it going to push through on Monday, and then maybe Tuesday and Wednesday comes back, and then Thursday and Friday continues on? This is really tricky, and it's going to have to be played as it lies. We're going to have to play it as it lies, as the expression goes, but that is my expectation. We've really now we're a little bit overextended on the daily side to this, but very much overdue. It's a very nice correction. I'm happy with that. As I said, we've still got some room to go. If we have a look at euro dollar, I think here can make its way up as far as 1.1 or 1.09. I think there's some potential for that, but I do want a pullback. So will that pullback this week bring us back down into parity? As far as parity, that's not bad. It's not an impossibility from a weekly perspective. That's like a 618. I think these trends are quite strong. I think it's more likely we'll get a 382 or 50% pullback across the board on most of the charts, and then continuations. So the only thing I don't know, and it's impossible to predict, is are we going to push through on Monday, then have a correction, then continue on, or are we going to kick off with a pullback immediately Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, and then start to turn around and carry on? So the 4-hour chart is going to be the one to watch, because the 4-hour chart is going to indicate whether we're starting 1 hour and 4 hour will start to show divergence, and then we'll start to see a pullback. In the 4 hour, it will pull back into the moving averages, and we'll see a continuation of that. Sterling as well, looking really nice and strong. Same thing again. My expectation is we've got a lot of room here. We can push all the way up to 1.198, 1.2, a little bit further, even possibly down the line over the coming months up to above 1.2. The Aussie dollar really strong, overextended a bit now on the daily. It's coming into some resistance around 0.67, which is where it is now, and it should still have room to go. So again, I would look for a nice pullback, possibly even down as far as 0.65, and then a continuation to the upside. Kiwi dollar, it's going to be the same thing. This angle very strong. The markets are really bullish right now, in line with a weaker dollar. So that's great, but again, we need that pullback. Dollar yen as well, man. Dollar yen's correction here is so overdue. You can see just a single day's move here was one of the biggest moves it's had in years. And so it was obviously just so overstretched. A lot of these markets, as I've been talking about for ages, are due for those corrections. Let's just kind of take this away. We can see that it's overdue for that correction. So what would I like to see? I'd like to see this week see us possibly work our way back up towards, say, 50%, back into here as 142, 145, and then continue to the downside. Then we've got dollar Swissy. You know, again, you can see that very strong correction. We had a lot of depletion over here. Then we moved up here. This is just a garbage thing to trade anyway. Dollar CAD. We've got a breakout here, nice retest, a pullback into 1.3, and then we'll see what happens with that. So it might actually just continue down to 1.3 before continuing on. We've got that uptrend on the weekly. Absolutely, I concede that. But we've got a lot of other things at play now, so that's a possibility there. Let's see if anything's going with the ruble. Nothing. That's still in a coma. Euro Swissy. Okay, so previously I was relatively confident Euro Swissy wanted to touch parity. It's not there right now. Doesn't mean at some point it won't sort of work its way back to that, but not really seeing much signs of it. So this week I want to see if there's any bullishness that could come back from that, from the 9.7 level. Otherwise, if it continues down through that, then that's just going to continue to head lower. It's not really a money-making opportunity at this time. It would have been if it continued up to parity. It's not. Gold. Gold is a beaut. Okay, gold is fantastic. I really want to see a pullback to 1.7. Could it come back as far as 1.650, call it 1.650? It's not going to be that far. Could it come back as far as that? It could. I think that's less likely. I think the most likely is 1.7. I think there's also a possibility of 1729 to come back, find some support in there, good continuations. If I see those, I'll put those trade ideas into my chat group. Looking really good. So there should be some solid continuations there. Silver also looking pretty good. It's actually a lot more bullish than the gold at the moment, bringing back down to 21 or 20, looking for good buy opportunities over there. Copper as well, strong moves up here. It's right up at previous support for resistance. Let's see if it can come back down into these old highs and then continue up. We'll see if it does that. Natural gas. Natural gas is having just, this is very much range-bound behavior, so it could find some bullishness this week. But you can see it sort of gapped up and closed to the downside here. It's a bit of a mess, not really worthwhile trading. Now we've got West Texas. This is looking bullish to me, but what I'm going to do with this is, because in principle the monthly chart is looking nice and bullish, however, it's been acting, it didn't follow through. Gold followed through this last week. It was very tricky for traders to get in on those moves, because what I was expecting to happen was Monday would move a bit, Tuesday would pause a bit while the elections were happening in the US, then kind of Wednesday afternoon would pause a bit in anticipation of the CPI numbers, and then we'd kind of be free and clear. And instead what happened was the market just went into a coma completely all the way up until Thursday, because no one was at the desk and everyone was voting, which is fine. It's all good. It worked out the way it should have. But then Thursday and Friday Thursday just moved, like it's almost as though all that effort and energy from the previous few days just was taken out on the Thursday. So it was just ridiculous. And actually the one that underperformed was crude oil. So crude oil should have just broken up and it didn't. Therefore, if we break this low, I'm bearish. If we break 85, I'm bearish. If we break above these highs, then I'm bullish. Brent crude as well, looking a little bit more bullish, but again, if we break below this low here at around about that, let's call it the 91 mark, start heading below that, I'm bearish on that one. Sugar is looking very strong and bullish. Look at that, it's coming right into the $20 range. I expect this to try to work its way through. It might pull back, come back down into 1880, and then continue and go back up and take another run at it and break out. Then we've got a big correction here. Let's bring these lines back, coming back, a big correction here on coffee. It's a little bit, it's kind of slowing down a little bit of bullish divergence here. So this week I expect coffee to push up a little bit higher. It's going to break some of these previous highs and push back a bit. We've got wheat. Seems to possibly have found itself a base. It is almost a bit of a downtrend here on the monthly. So this level where it's at has to hold, this area here. And it's not offering a lot of clarity. It's got a downtrend on the weekly. It's got a downtrend on the daily. So I'm going to kind of stand by and see what happens with that. If we start to break these previous highs, heads above 864, then we're going to start to change the narrative a bit, start to look more and more bullish. But until then, I'm expecting it to continue down based off what I see here. Cotton, really nice and strong. That daily looks very keen. It's a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders. Big move like this. Possibly there could be a push to the upside. I think it's fair to say it's going to try to do that. We've got a, again, weekly downtrend, but the monthly has come right into these old highs and produced a very bullish bar. So it's got to just get past this 90 level. Okay, let's move on to the global indices. So again, very bullish. The weekly looks fantastic. It's above that 50-period moving average, and actually the Dow is not overextended. It's not that overextended. It doesn't mean it can't have a pullback, but it's not overextended, so it's not overdue for one. When you look at the S&P, you've got a bit more of a move. I'd love to see that S&P come down to 3.8. Back down to 3.9, find some support and go. It's not above the 50-period moving average. It hasn't broken that overall bearish trend line. So we're not out of the woods yet, but we are looking really good. We are looking as though that is the way we are going. And so just as we go, it's nice to get those little milestones that just, okay, good, we've crossed that line. We've got a confirmed uptrend. I mean, we've arguably, you could say we've got a high, low, high, high here on price action on the weekly. But it's nice to just we're slowly but surely kind of crossing those trend lines. The Nasdaq had a really good day. Very strong. Look at that, beautiful. That is sexy. Okay, it's got all the right curves. This is very nice. I subscribe to this. I like big double bottoms. No, okay, that didn't work. All right, so we've got a double bottom here on the weekly. Looks really nice. Bullish candle, high, low, high, high. Looks really nice and bullish. A pullback in towards could happen, but I think the most likely pullback is 11,500, and then a continuation to the upside. Russell, mini Russell 2000 looking good. Look at that, really nice and bullish. That's also looking good. Not much holding it back here. We've got the FTSE, bit of a correction here, but also looking really happy with itself. Looks like it wants to just go back up and test these highs at 7,500. The DAX looking really like super strong. That's now above the 50-period moving average, so that's good. We don't have an uptrend. We don't have a high, low, high, high, so that still at some point is going to have to come back down. I think there's a very high probability this coming week we're going to see these markets really surge ahead. The markets are hungry to get back to a bit of normality, and they've been cooped up a while. I think this is possibly going to be the case. We got Nikkei looking strong and bullish. Look at that, managing to get back to the top of the range and push up a little bit higher. That's a great sign. Let's look at the ASX. ASX has also broken this previous high. It's still arguably range bound, but I would say we're pretty clear. We should be free and clear. We do need pullbacks on a continuation, but it looks really good. Okay, let's move on to the equities of interest. So this is where it gets a bit raggedy. This is a bit of a bearish candle here. It's flat here on terms of divergence, so there might be a move down this week back into back down towards 502, and then another attempt to move to the upside. That's a bit of a surprise, but that is clearly a level of resistance. It's going to be a tricky one for it to get through. Tesco's had a solid recovery. Good for you. You can see this price level where we are is a problem. It's a bit of a line in the sand, so we need to get over that. Okay, so this week I might look that we've set up here to continue. Those last couple of daily candles here are looking bullish. They're not too overextended. They could keep pushing from here, but otherwise we're going to need a bit of a correction to the downside. And then we'll go on to Amex. Amex is failing upwards. You see a lot of red candles, but we're still going higher. It's not so bad. That monthly chart looking good as well. Looks a lot like the DAX. Looks okay. We should keep going higher. Bar any just normal, natural, healthy corrections to the downside, we should keep going. Then we've got Apple. Apple's looking solid. There we go. That monthly candle is going to be really interesting. If we finish this with a green monthly candle, that's going to be a very nice, for me, that's going to be very attractive and significant. We've got a really nice bullish candle here at the moment. A lot of this looking way more bullish than bearish. So yeah, we could have a surprise. We could have a surprise thing that happens during the week. Markets take a massive hit. But based off last week and the bigger picture, it would have to be a surprise, something completely unexpected. But if there's no surprises there, my expectation is we're going to continue to recover. ExxonMobil also looking good, just going to keep going. That looks fine. I feel like we've jumped a little bit. Hold on a second. Amazon looking good there. We're back up above that 100 level. That's what I wanted to see. If this finishes as a bullish green monthly candle, that's also a really good sign. Not enough divergence here. Might have to go up and then come down and then change direction, but it's a start. You've got that bullish divergence here on the weekly, where you've got a low and a lower low here, but it's a low and a higher low here, so that's good. Then we've got ARC, Kathy, Butte. Let's have a look here. Nice bullish weekly finish. It should have the momentum to go back up to 50 here. Nice kind of engulfing price action here. It's like a megaphone pattern, some people call it that. But the fact is it's moved to the other side of all of this noise, so it should be bullish. That monthly starting to look more and more bullish. These are good signs, people. AT&T, Okay, so AT&T, they've been keeping their nose out of the news lately, so that's good. Possibly that's helped boost their price a little bit, their brand cleaned up a little bit. We'll see. This should be able to work its way back up to 20. That's a strong level of resistance. They've never been able to get through that, but that doesn't mean they won't in the coming year. Adidas starting to recover nicely. Adidas has got a good chance of going back up to 150. In fact, they kind of have a good chance of getting back up to about 175. Let's see if they can also, they've cleaned up their act. They took a while to do it, but they've cleaned up their act. Berkshire Hathaway, you're fine. Berkshire Hathaway is fine. Like, it's good. It's back on track. I'm not even going to talk about it because it's like it's solid, it's bulletproof, it's going up. BP, starting to break through these highs. That looks fine. Exxon we had a look at. That's nice and bullish. Coca-Cola is fine. It's part of Berkshire Hathaway. The collective momentum of them plus the collective move across the board, they're fine. They're in the clear. Like, it's literally that easy. We've got FedEx. Okay, so FedEx here is going to make it back up to 200. Then the question is going to be, can I get back over? Is this level of support going to be resistance? And you know what? If everything else stays the way it is now, it should be able to get over that line. I think what I would do here is draw in that kind of bearish trend line in the sand. So I'm not using a trend line in the traditional sense, guys. I'm using a trend line as a line in the sand. It's just a little bit of an indicator of like, okay, if we're below this line, we're bearish. Once we start moving above it, then we are shifting bullish. Okay, remember, if that weekly gets above the 50-period moving average, we're good as well. And you can see how the 50-period moving average is very close to that line. So the two of them are together. It's an indication of sentiment. The angle of momentum is an indication of sentiment. So if that angle starts to change, the sentiment is changing. General Motors, you're solid. That's good. Bullish. Bullish. JP Morgan Chase. That's a strong move to the upside. You do need to have a correction. Maybe down to 127 to where I am actually right now, and a continuation. But it just sliced right through that level, 133, no problem. So that's good. Meta. Okay. Meta's on its way back up. All right, it's going to probably close this gap. I don't know how much it'll move in the coming week, but I still see it as a wounded animal. I'm not convinced yet that its future is as bright as most of the other charts we've had a look at. So we're going to I'm going to play that one again as it lies. This looks great. Man, Morgan Stanley, higher lows, higher highs. That's on its way back up. Looks fantastic. Next up, 100 on that one. Netflix. Okay, so Netflix is in a channel, but this is a beautiful one. Look at this one. So we've got this really nice uptrend. We broke through this level of resistance. We pulled back and we produced this bullish candle. This signals continuation to the upside. So it should break through 300, should work its way up to 335 this coming week. Carrying on, NVIDIA. Okay, NVIDIA looks really nice and strong. It's still in a downtrend, but it looks really nice and bullish. My expectation is, aside from pullbacks, I expect this to continue to the upside. PayPal has also started to breach this trend line. It looks good. I would love some opinion feedback on why PayPal is not doing better than it is. I would love some of that. I'm curious. I've always used the service for years, always been very happy with it. They've been consistent, not sure. Maybe they're just not competitive. Spider itself, not, struggles a bit, but it's still bullish. So I expect that to continue pushing up. Spotify I also expect to continue pushing higher. I expect it to get back in here. There's some potential resistance at 94. But it looks like it's going to try to get in there. And then we've got Tesla. So Tesla's an interesting thing. I'm a little concerned as a shareholder of Tesla that the guy who's the kind of brainchild behind all of it is tinkering with, obsessing over a little bit of another toy that appears to be imploding. So I'm not convinced that his attention is where it should be. And so it makes me a little bit concerned. Plus, how should I feel that the biggest, kind of stakeholder, one of the wealthiest people in the world, is also the biggest seller of Tesla shares for whatever reason? What does that signal to other shareholders? So I'm a little concerned. We got a brand new low on Tesla that it hasn't been at. So it broke this previous low. It hasn't been this low, I don't think, since November 2020. In other words, its first really good year. So it's not a good sign. It's in a downtrend of multiple time frames. What I need to see is it break this previous high to have my confidence renewed that things are calming down, and that the you know, the lead guy's focus and attention is where it actually should be, because this is really the main baby. And I don't think that's selfish. We've got SpaceX, we've got a whole lot of other stuff going on, but really kind of like a lot of that has been done off the back of this. And actually it's not like they're delivering all their orders on time. There's a lot of stuff they still have to do. So, you know, I feel like there should be some attention paid there. Anyway, so 240 is really where I would start to be bullish. Until that time, I'm actually bearish. I want to see if we can counter some resistance here at 204. What I would say is that if we drop back below 180 this coming week, that's not a good sign. Okay, that's not a good sign. And I would put all of that, I would lay that at Elon Musk's feet, because the company should be outperforming everyone else. So if it's starting to fall now, I would do it, because we already know that he's the reason this has dropped, because he was literally selling 4 billions worth of shares. So anyway, not super happy. Vanguard, bullish up here, looks good. I'm happy with that. I expect it to continue pushing a little bit higher. We've got Vanguard, we've got bonds. Bonds are looking nice and bullish. We've got that bullish divergence looking nice. We've got an uptrend now. I think there's a good chance that bonds are going to push up a little bit higher. I'm not convinced we have a longer term shift in the trend, but I do think we've got room this week for it to continue a little bit high. Eurobund as well, same thing. It's kind of it's a weird range bound behavior. If it breaks below these lows, I'm bearish. If it breaks above the highs, I'm bullish, but I'm leaning bullish. And then we move on to cryptos. So, you know, I was expecting cryptos to follow through on equities, because that's what they should have done. It would be, I guess, technically impossible to have predicted the FTX drama that unfolded, and that has impacted cryptos across the board. So this is kind of where I am on this at the moment. I think basically cryptos are waiting for some sign that that mess has been fixed and it's wrapped up and it's resolved and there's no more contagion. It's not going to continue to impact the rest of the markets or to impact cryptos, and there's no contagion. It wouldn't impact any other markets, which would be a black swan event. So I would expect them to there's not much further for them to fall. That's why these candles have got smaller. So if you kind of zoom out, you go from bigger candles into these very small candles. There's not a lot of, the volume is not as big. You can see it visually, it's not as big. Although the moves are hitting low, we've got that bullish divergence. So at this point, there's very lackluster selling. This was a reaction, a dramatic reaction. The market stopped selling after that. The question now is, can we get back up, or are we going to continue down? Have we broken out of this range only to continue lower? We shouldn't. If equities are continuing to lift, we should see crypto start to advance, unless this drama is going to continue. So really, that's what I think the markets are watching now. Can we kind of put this FTX thing to bed? Can we all go back to our lives? Can cryptos, because in that case, cryptos are lagging, which means that cryptos will have a fantastic catch-up, field day, field week, whatever's going to happen when they start to climb a little bit higher. Ethereum trying to maintain that bullishness, but technically they're looking more bearish for now. So I would either stay away from them, or I'd be tentatively shorting them. And as soon as they start to break to new highs and they're starting to convincingly look as bullish as the equities are, you'll hear it here first. And that's it, ladies and gents. Trade sensibly. There should be some great opportunities this week, barring any unforeseen ridiculousness, which is the world we live in at the moment. And that's it. I wish you a fantastic week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.